let's get caught up on tariffs. Let's get caught up on what happened yesterday because we had a couple of different countries. That's crazy when you can get to the point in life. Hold on one second. Cool New York. Somebody time out Cool New York and let them know that we move on our own time. Because, see, now you're going to extend the show by an additional 10 minutes just by me getting on you. Just by me getting on you. Somebody in the chat time out Cool New York and tell him that we move on the time frame that we move, and I will extend this show. I ain't got nothing better to do than to extend the show for another half hour if I need to. Nothing better to do. I ain't got no job that I got to get to. I ain't got no meeting that I got to focus on. It's Tuesday. Tuesday is a slow meeting day anyway. Somebody time out Marcus. Marcus 013 live. Anybody else? Anybody else feel the need to be able to rush the teacher into the lesson that we got going on? Or would you like detention too? Anybody else want detention? Anybody else? I don't have nothing better to do. I'm putting tariffs on everybody. Anybody that want to get out of line, we're going to do tariffs. Malik Two-Turn. Give Malik Two-Turn detention for please. Somebody put a tariff on Malik Two-Turn. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and move the microphone away because apparently we got some problematic children inside of the chat that we need to address. Anybody else? Anybody else need a tariff? All right. Okay. Looks like we got we've addressed the Dusties. All right. Y'all ready to get started with the show? We're gonna redo this again. We're gonna do it over again. We're gonna do it all over again. Somebody put almighty suspect into tariff mode. Time out. Anybody else? T-Real, put a tariff on T-Real, please. Just time him out. Just give him detention. Anybody else? Relax Sounds. Put Relax Sounds in tariff mode. Anybody else? Would anybody else like a tariff? Thank you, LD. See, LD, it's always my snow bunnies. Let me get my snow bunny up here. That motivates me to go ahead and get started with the show. You see that? My snow bunny LD says, Anton, I can't say how much I appreciate your intelligence and common sense. Okay, well, I guess we can go ahead and get started with the show. Anybody else? All right. Let's go ahead and get started with the show. Again, make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. All right. So, revisiting exactly what happened yesterday, like I was saying, with Mexico and Canada. We had 25% tariffs going into effect starting midnight. Them phone calls start rolling in. Make sure you hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's recap, ladies and gentlemen.
We do have some breaking news just into us. President Trump now pumping the brakes on a trade war, pausing tariffs on both Canada and Mexico for at least 30 days in exchange for both countries beefing up U.S. security on their borders. Now, the big question right now, what happens with China? The massive tariffs on that country are still set to go into effect tomorrow. Watch.
We have meetings planned, and we'll see what happens. But that was just an opening salvo. If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial.
And a dramatic back and forth leading to a roller coaster day on Wall Street. The stock market closing in the red in just the last hour. The Dow rebounding from steep declines earlier, but leaving global markets in turmoil. Massive implications on the global stage and possibly for your wallet, too. The president says Americans could feel some short-term pain, stoking new inflation fears with higher prices possibly coming on fruits and vegetables, cars, gas, clothes, and electronics. We do have team coverage. NBC's senior business correspondent, Christine Romans, is standing by. But let's start with Yamiche Alcindor, who is near the White House. So, Yamiche, what do we know about this brand new 11th hour deal between...
Yamisha right here is proof of what we were saying yesterday, and that it doesn't really matter as much about your name, doesn't matter about your hairstyle, don't even matter about your weight. She absolutely exemplified everything that we use as an example of DEI, yet she's sitting there right on MSNBC, right on NBC, having a conversation talking about what happens at the White House. We have literally the perfect example of what we were talking about yesterday on the Monday night show, of everything that you then need to do, because they told me that it's all about pretty privilege, and this is not to pick on her. I'm just using this as an example. Honest to God. Got the hair, looked like she a part of Umar Johnson's crew. Got the weight, obviously was talking about the Lyft driver yesterday. Got the hue, got the name, got a sh at the end of her name, and yet she's sitting right here on NBC now having a conversation with the White House in the background. Congratulations. Flies right in the face of everything that they tried to tell me yesterday.
The U.S. and Canada, and what will the president be looking for after this 30-day pause?
Well, Ryan, this news is just breaking because President Trump just posted online. He is confirming that the tariffs on Canada are going to be paused, it seems. And he's listing a number of things that Canada is doing really as a concession in order to get these tariffs paused. He said Canada has agreed to ensure we have a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs like fentanyl that have been pouring into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans while destroying our families and communities all across our country. He goes on to say Canada will implement their $1.3 billion border plan as per Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So it sounds like he's saying it's his responsibility. He also goes on to say, I'm very pleased with this initial outcome, and the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured, fairness for all. So that's President Trump just in the last few seconds here, posting online, confirming that he's now going to be pausing the tariffs for Canada. That was supposed to be 25% tariffs. They're going to be paused for 30 days. He also earlier confirmed that he's pausing the tariffs on Mexico for 30 days. Both of those countries, both Canada and Mexico, are saying that they're going to be sending personnel to the border, really giving in some ways what President Trump wanted to him. In the case of Canada, which says that only about 1% of fentanyl comes through their borders, they're saying they're going to appoint a new fentanyl czar, as well as list cartels as terrorists, along with a number of other actions. But all of this seems to be slowing down what was really an escalating trade war, Ryan.
Yeah. So what they're basically telling us and what they're basically breaking down is that both countries bent the knee. And I explained this to a friend of mine earlier, and this is how negotiations work. Remember when we were talking about the United States of America endorsing at that time, the Biden administration actually endorsing the UAW when they were fighting for equal wages and we want our fair share, and you know what I'm saying? And they started doing all of that, so on and so forth. Well, this is how negotiations go. And if you've ever read Trump's book, Art of the Deal, if you've ever understood negotiations when it comes to automotive companies, if you ever understood negotiations when it comes to union and so on and so forth, this is the exact thing that Trump has been implementing. Now, first of all, you have to have leverage. Okay? Leverage is your number one tool when it comes to getting what you want. Sometimes it's going to be some pain. Sometimes it's going to be some suffering, but you're going to have to be willing to suffer if you want to get to the other side of whatever your negotiation is. The second thing is when you're negotiating with more than one person. In this instance, we're negotiating with the world, but we want to start off with, obviously, they started off and they exercised it on the weakest first. You get the lowest hanging fruit. Oh, Colombia, you don't want to take your people back. Venezuela, you want to complain. Tariff on y'all. They immediately take it back before the tariffs go into place. And then they take their people back and then they go kicking and screaming, but they gonna go. All right. They're not happy about it, but they going. In this instance, he then picked bigger players that were that were directly north and south of us. And he said, okay, guys, I warned y'all that this was coming. I know that y'all wanted to, show force with your own people and with your country. And you wanted to show that you have a backbone so you don't look like you cowering over to the Americans. So you waited to the last minute, 25% tariff, and then he put it on Mexico, even though Canada wasn't the most egregious player in this thing, but Canada is still, they need to make sure that they get on board also. Okay? Now, what does that mean? It means that Canada is going to suffer for what Mexico did, but Canada is also an egregious player too. So because we got a trade deficit with Canada, and because we don't like how it is that they do business with their people, even though we allow for their goods to come into our country, and we basically account for 40% of their trade, which is basically controlling their economy, we have the power, we have the leverage. But similarly, let's say, for example, you are a Teamsters union president, or you are Sean Fain with the UAW. They target probably one of the most successful of the group. So if they say Ford, Chrysler, and GM, and they say, GM, you've made the most profits, they're going to use that as the blueprint for then how they're going to approach the other automakers, but they need to make sure that they get the best concessions first from the most profitable company. In this instance, it's reverse. Trump is going after the player that's done the worst harm to the United States of America by allowing for people to fly into Mexico, come into this country illegally through the Biden administration. In addition to that, he's also dealing with them from the lens of allowing for all of these drugs to come into the country, as well as China being a major player and skirting the tariffs that Trump had in place, that Biden reinforced. And then what they did was they started to create factories and then hope that the Biden administration, through Kamala Harris, continue to become president of the United States of America, which would allow for them to continue to ship products up through Mexico into the United States of America, thus skirting the tariffs that Trump put in place, again, that Biden reinforced during his fourth term. And so they're using Mexico. Mexico is nothing but a shell company. That's it. They parade themselves around as having good tequila, that they got great tacos, that they ship in good corn, and that we like their avocados. But in reality, they're nothing but a shell company that allow for other states, other countries, other places, China, Venezuela, Guatemala, Japan, every single player that you can think of, they allow for other people to be able to use them to then get into the United States of America, to take care of business and do it through the United States of America more cheaper than they would just come in here and opening up a factory here. And then once we get Mexico in line, we implement that same thing over in Canada. And that's why you now see Canada saying, okay, well, we're going to send some troops to the border too. We're going to reinforce whatever it is that you want to do. We're going to prevent the drugs from being able to come to your country. But we also want economic concessions. And that's why Trump only paused it for 30 days. The negotiation tactics work across the board. The negotiation tactics, it work across the board. The same way that Sean Fain and the president of the UAW targeted American automakers is the same way that they targeted Mexico, and then they had a waterfall effect. What we then solidified with General Motors is what we're then going to have or using as a template for negotiating over at Ford Motor Company, and then we're going to move over to Stellantis, and then we're going to try to unionize Tesla and all of these other plants throughout the United States of America. That's the blueprint. And so that's what we did with Canada and Mexico, right? We said, Mexico, get your butt in order. You ain't doing what you're supposed to do. Canada, Justin Trudeau thought that he was an exception because he was a little bit more feminine. Claudia Sheinbaum, she didn't say nothing because she know that Mexico was out there doing some bad things. And then once they get a concession, they then use that same concession as a blueprint for how it is that they negotiated with Canada. Canada got to fall in line. But then at the same time, we only going to pause it for 30 days. Why? Because A, we got to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do with the first concession that you made. And then B, we want economic concessions. And so that's how we're going to approach this negotiation. It's the art of the deal, baby. Now, everybody that hasn't looked at things from a business perspective, raging liberals, rhinos, Republicans in name only, they will sit there and complain because they not used to ever pushing back. I can always tell the people that get taken advantage of at work. I can always tell the people that get taken advantage of at work. You know how? That's why women, I'm gonna teach you a business lesson today. This is why women often at times take less than they're supposed to, and then they complain that they're not making equal as their male counterparts. It's the same reason why it's so easy to get them to vote a certain way inside of the elections, because they're not used to saying no. They're not used to standing up for themselves. They don't understand if they have worth or what their worth is, and they don't have multiple different competing offers on the table before they started to negotiate with this person. Most of the time when a woman moves over into a new job, it's not because she's actually disgruntled with the job that she has, or she currently has something on the table, or she has multiple different competing offers. She's doing it out of duress. Most of the time, women either go up in the company that they have, or they wait till they get laid off, or they need a new job in order to go to a different job, which then give them no leverage. It gives you no leverage. And this is the mentality that they have. And this is why we don't need women as leaders, because often at times they're in the tail end, they're on the back end of the negotiating table. This is why when we see people and these raging liberals on these social media sites then say, I can't believe it, it's going to cost us more in avocados and eggs and stuff like that. The rest of us, the men that's used to it, they say, yeah, we understand what's going on. We paying attention to what's happening. This is the art of the deal. This is easy. This is why we able to negotiate better and say, you know what I'm saying, at our jobs and get the best deals, because we always wait for the long-term deal when we can see it happening before that. We playing chess. You playing checkers. I know you need the job because you ain't got no other options, so I can lowball you. But when you got options and you're willing to walk away from the table because they need you more than you need them, then you're able to get the best deal. You don't want to hear me. This is why you see these women and raging liberals whining about the possibility of prices going up, not knowing that it was never going to be a war in the first place. This is a one-sided deal. We just gonna wait till you go ahead and submit. Let's continue.
And let's talk about this, Yamiche, because it's a big question as to whether or not this is the beginning or the end. And the president already himself suggesting that tariffs on the EU could come next, the European Union. Could the White House target some other of these top?
Remember the blueprint: Colombia, Venezuela. Then we got Mexico. We have Canada. The EU is next. The EU will be submitting. The EU will be United States of America lapdogs, 100%.
Trading partners soon?
It sounds like it. President Trump has made it very clear that he sees tariffs as, frankly, a diplomatic tool to push and force countries to do things that he wants them to do. So the fact that he's already invoking the European Union as being his next target in this shows that he might be putting new tariffs there at some point. It also is interesting that he's saying in the next day or so he plans to talk to the president of China. He's expecting, at least on Tuesday, they were supposed to go into effect 10% tariffs on China. We don't know if those are going to be paused. Right now, they aren't paused. But it's going to be interesting to see how President Trump moves forward with this. It's also very clear that the president just overall has been saying that America has been getting taken advantage of, and that he wants to use tariffs in a number of countries to make America what he says very strong and very rich. Ryan.
All right, Yamiche, I'll send her out.
Somebody says, Anton, why are you supporting a government that hates you and works for the WEF and not you seriously? No, the government hates you. No, let me explain it to you for the people in the back. The government hates you, big dog. You know why? Because you are a nuisance and you don't add value into the American system. See, I understand where my value lies. I understand that this is a class war. The reason why the government loves me is because I contributed into an American economy. I'm a taxpayer, and I actually put jobs in place that allow for the American dollar to circulate, and I understand how money works. The government loves me. The government hates you because you are a nuisance. See, this is how I know when somebody is dusty. Dust mites always leave trails of dust on a regular basis. The government hates you because you on Section 8, you got food, your girlfriend is on food stamps. You know what I'm saying? You always driving around with no insurance. The government loves me because I'm an actual contributing member of society. See, what you don't understand is we got social security numbers as an identification. It's almost like being prisoners, right? And they look at us as a number, and they don't look at you as a race. See, when your name come up and they say, "Hey, where's Ben at?" They don't look at Ben. They look at Ben's social security number. They say, "Yeah, Ben is a dusty. Ben is a dusty. We gonna have to figure out what to do with Ben." You know what I'm saying? When they look at Anton, they say, "Okay, this is a contributing member to society. We're gonna have to make sure that we take care of him, and we're gonna craft laws that's in his favor." See, they don't look at us as a race. They look at us as a number. And because you're not a contributing member of society, they hate you. They love me. That's the difference. I understand that the value that you have is what you then bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a relationship. Everybody wants to be used. Everybody is going to be used, but we don't want to be misused. We know what we contributed to society. We know what our value is. You know that if you died today, nobody would care and it wouldn't be a problem. If I died today, there will be a whole bunch of live streams saying, "What happened with Anton? Where did he go? Oh my God, I can't believe it. What's going to happen with my job?" It's going to be a lot of people mourning. It's going to be flowers. They're going to live stream my funeral. They're going to actually miss me, and they're going to memorialize me. If you die, it's going to be just like your avatar. You just a letter. We don't even know if they're going to cremate you or not. We don't care if they bury you. We don't care about that. If I die, people care. If you die, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares about you because you didn't contribute anything into anybody's life. And so your value is zero. My value is here. Your value is here. If I die, people care. If they gonna research and try to find out what's going on, they gonna check on my wife. If you die, nobody cares. That's how the government looks at us. It's the same thing. I hate to give you that reality check, but it's the truth. Me die, big deal. You die, no big deal. And that's why y'all want me to get into the dust with you and have no value, because pigs that play in the mud like other pigs that play in the mud with them. I don't want to play in the mud with you. That's why you watching me and I'm not watching you. You subscribe to say that. Learn something. Add value into the community. Do something better for the next generation. Leave this earth in a better space had you not been here. Don't just be an avatar. Don't just be a letter. Don't just be when people in the street say Anton Daniels, they say, "Oh, that guy from," when people say Ben Alamark, they say, "Who?" See what I'm saying? You got to be a contributing member in society, and then people will value you.